Hey everyone, Mon here. Have you ever wondered if you could survive a fall from an airplane using just everyday objects? It sounds like something straight out of a cartoon, but today, we're diving into the science to see if there's any truth to it. We'll be exploring some common items you might have lying around and examining whether they could actually save your life in such an extreme situation. First, let's talk about the physics of freefall. When you jump out of a plane, you're not just falling, you're accelerating due to gravity. This acceleration continues until you reach what's called terminal velocity. Terminal velocity is the point where the force of gravity is balanced by air resistance, and you stop accelerating. For a human, this is around 120 miles per hour. Understanding this is crucial, because any object we use to survive needs to either slow us down before we hit terminal velocity, or cushion the impact when we land. In today's video, we'll test 3 different everyday items: umbrellas, mattresses, and a giant stack of balloons. We'll delve into the physics behind each one and see if they could realistically help you survive a fall from an airplane, so buckle up and let's get started. Alright, first up on our list is umbrellas. These everyday items are more fascinating than you might think. When you think of using an umbrella to slow down your fall, you might picture Mary Poppins gracefully descending from the sky. This iconic image has captured the imagination of many, but how realistic is it? But can an umbrella really help you in a freefall situation? Could it actually save your life if you were to jump out of a plane? Let's break down the physics. Understanding the science behind it can help us see if there's any truth to this whimsical idea. Umbrellas work by increasing air resistance, which in turn slows down your fall. This is the same principle that makes parachutes effective. The larger the surface area, the more air resistance you generate. This is why larger umbrellas or multiple umbrellas could, in theory, slow you down more effectively. However, a single umbrella might not be enough to significantly reduce your speed. The surface area is simply too small to create a substantial drag force. To really make a difference, you would need multiple umbrellas working together to create a larger surface area. But even then, there are challenges. Now let's talk about air resistance. This is a crucial factor in understanding how objects fall. When you fall, air molecules push against you, creating a drag force that opposes gravity. This drag force is what slows you down. The more surface area you have, the greater the drag force. This is why parachutes are so effective. They have a large surface area that creates a lot of drag, slowing you down considerably. This is why parachutes are so effective. They have a large surface area that creates a lot of drag, slowing you down considerably. But an umbrella's surface area is much smaller compared to a parachute. So, what if you had, say, 10 umbrellas? Could they work together to slow you down? In theory, yes. The combined surface area of multiple umbrellas could increase the air resistance enough to make a difference. Could they work together to slow you down? In theory, yes. The combined surface area of multiple umbrellas could increase the air resistance enough to make a difference. The combined surface area of multiple umbrellas could increase the air resistance enough to make a difference. However, coordinating multiple umbrellas in freefall would be incredibly challenging. They could easily collapse or get tangled, rendering them ineffective. Let's do a quick experiment to see this in action. We'll drop a mannequin with a single umbrella, and then with multiple umbrellas to see the difference in descent speed. We'll drop a mannequin with a single umbrella and then with multiple umbrellas to see the difference in descent speed. As you can see, the multiple umbrellas do slow down the fall, but not enough to make a significant impact. The descent is still too fast for a safe landing. In conclusion, while umbrellas can increase air resistance, their effectiveness is limited by their size and the difficulty of managing multiple umbrellas in freefall. So, while it's a fun idea, relying on umbrellas to survive a fall from an airplane is more fiction than fact. It's always best to stick with a proper parachute for such daring adventures. Next, let's talk about mattresses. The idea here is pretty straightforward. If you land on something soft and cushioned, it might absorb some of the impact and reduce the force on your body. This concept is similar to how airbags work in cars, where the cushioning effect helps to decelerate the body more gradually, thereby reducing the risk of injury. But how effective is a mattress at doing this, really? Can it truly make a significant difference in a high-impact scenario? When you fall from a great height, the force of impact is determined by your mass and the speed at which you're falling. This is governed by the laws of physics, specifically Newton's second law of motion, which states that force equals mass times acceleration. This force is what causes injuries. The greater the force, the more severe the potential injuries can be. To minimize this force, you need to increase the time over which the impact occurs. This is known as increasing the impact duration, which helps to spread out the force over a longer period. This is where cushioning comes in. By providing a softer surface, the mattress can help to extend the time of impact. A mattress can compress and extend the time of impact, thereby reducing the force. The material and structure of the mattress play a crucial role in how well it can perform this function. Let's consider different types of mattresses. Each type has its own characteristics and capabilities when it comes to absorbing impact. A regular spring mattress might provide some cushioning, but it's not designed to absorb the kind of force generated by a fall from an airplane. The springs can only compress so much before they reach their limit. Memory foam mattresses, on the other hand, are designed to absorb and distribute weight more evenly. The foam material can conform to the shape of the body, providing a more uniform distribution of force. But even the best memory foam mattress has its limits. It can only absorb so much energy before it becomes ineffective. To test this, we'll drop a weighted object onto different types of mattresses from varying heights and measure the force of impact. This will give us a better understanding of how well each mattress can absorb and distribute the force. As you can see, while the mattresses do reduce the impact force compared to a hard surface, the reduction is not enough to make a fall from an airplane survivable. The forces involved in such a fall are simply too great for any mattress to handle effectively. The forces involved are just too great. Even with the best cushioning, the impact would still be catastrophic. Another factor to consider is the distribution of force. When you land on a mattress, the force is concentrated on the area where you make contact. This can lead to localized injuries, even if the overall force is reduced. The body parts that make first contact with the mattress will bear the brunt of the impact. This can lead to localized injuries, even if the overall force is reduced. For example, landing feet first could result in severe leg injuries. In a real-life scenario, the mattress could also shift or collapse upon impact, reducing its effectiveness. This instability can further increase the risk of injury. So, while a mattress can provide some cushioning, it's not a reliable solution for surviving a fall from an airplane. The limitations of the materials and the physics involved make it an impractical option. The forces involved are simply too extreme for a mattress to handle effectively. No matter how advanced the mattress technology, it cannot overcome the fundamental laws of physics. It's a nice thought, but in practice, it's not going to save you. The best way to survive a fall is to avoid it in the first place. Finally, let's explore the idea of using a giant stack of balloons to survive a fall. This concept, while whimsical and reminiscent of scenes from animated movies, has intrigued many people. Could a bunch of helium-filled balloons really save you from a potentially fatal drop? Balloons filled with helium can create lift, which might help to slow down your descent. Helium, being lighter than air, causes the balloons to rise, and theoretically, enough of them could counteract the force of gravity. But can they really counteract the force of gravity enough to save you? The idea hinges on the principle of buoyancy, which is the same principle that allows hot air balloons to float. The principle behind this idea is buoyancy. Buoyancy is the upward force exerted by a fluid that opposes the weight of an object immersed in it. In this case, the fluid is the air, and the object is the helium balloon. Helium is lighter than air, so it rises, creating an upward force. This is why helium balloons float upwards when released. If you have enough balloons, this upward force could potentially counteract your weight and slow your fall. However, the number of balloons required to achieve this is quite substantial. But how many balloons would you actually need? This is where the practicality of the idea starts to come into question. To find out, we need to calculate the buoyant force generated by a single helium balloon. A standard party balloon can lift about 14 grams, which is not much. A standard party balloon can lift about 14 grams. This means that to lift an average human who weighs around 70 kilograms, you would need a staggering number of balloons. Given that an average human weighs around 70 kilograms, you would need approximately 5,000 balloons to lift a person. This is a huge number and poses significant logistical challenges. But lifting and slowing a fall are two different things. Lifting a person off the ground is one challenge, but slowing a fall from a significant height is another. To slow a fall, you might need even more balloons. The force required to decelerate a falling body is much greater than the force needed to lift it. Let's test this with a small-scale experiment. We'll use a weighted object and see how many balloons it takes to slow its descent. We'll use a weighted object and see how many balloons it takes to slow its descent. This will give us a practical understanding of the concept. As you can see, even with a large number of balloons, the descent is only marginally slowed. The object still falls at a dangerous speed, indicating that the balloons are not sufficient to ensure a safe landing. The object still falls at a dangerous speed. This highlights the limitations of using balloons for such a purpose. Another challenge is the practicality of using balloons in a freefall situation. Balloons are fragile and can easily burst or get tangled, making them unreliable in a high-stress scenario. Balloons are fragile and can easily burst or get tangled. This adds another layer of complexity and risk to the idea. Coordinating a giant stack of balloons while falling at terminal velocity would be nearly impossible. The chaotic nature of a free fall makes it extremely difficult to manage the balloons effectively. Plus, the balloons would need to be inflated and ready to go before you fall, adding another layer of complexity. This preparation is not feasible in an emergency situation. In conclusion, while the idea of using a giant stack of balloons is intriguing, it's not practical or effective for surviving a fall from an airplane. The number of balloons required and the challenges of managing them in freefall make this solution more of a myth than a reality. The number of balloons required and the challenges of managing them in freefall make this solution more of a myth than a reality. It's a fascinating concept, but not one that can be relied upon for safety. So, what have we learned today? While everyday objects like umbrellas, mattresses, and balloons offer some fascinating possibilities, none of them are reliable solutions for surviving a fall from an airplane. The physics of freefall and the forces involved are just too extreme for these items to handle effectively. Umbrellas can increase air resistance, but not enough to make a significant difference. Mattresses can provide some cushioning, but not enough to absorb the massive forces of impact. And while a giant stack of balloons can create lift, the number required and the practical challenges make it an unrealistic option. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the science of survival, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Let me know in the comments what other everyday objects you'd like to see tested in